and on. It was on my mind. I was obviously doing it this morning, and then.
Yeah, no, it's good. And, well, I guess we're no longer pre-gaming.
No, we're not. No, it's the actual game.
I have a question for you afterward, though.
Okay, cool.
AdWords thing, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you? I'll do the official kickoff, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so, and I'm trying to be a little quieter than normal because the baby is sleeping in the other room.
Am I being loud? Oh, no, I'm in your ears. Okay.
No, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Shut up, Patty. Shut up. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's SEO and IPA. It's a fun weekly hangout about inbound marketing, entrepreneurship, and more for cool people of all shapes, stripes, and colors. As always, I'm Daniel Barrett, here from Two Friendly Nerds. That's TWO Friendly Nerds, the world's friendliest web design company. And with me, as always, is the brains behind the operation, officially the only reason anybody ever watches this show. She knows everything there is to know about online marketing, and she has the degree from Drexel University to prove it. It's Patti DeLessio from Reinvent Interactive. That is reinventinteractive.com. Patti, how are you?
I'm well, my friend. You did it again. Thank you.
I messed it up a little bit. It was supposed to be a degree in information systems. That was in the thing. I made a note of that. You told me that once, and I was like, I'm going to bring that up again in the future. Like someone's going to like keel over in a movie theater, and I'm like, does anyone have a degree in information systems here? I don't know what information systems is. I think that's why it's funny.
Oh, wait, hold on. I saw a clip of Family Guy the other day. My kids are watching Family Guy, which is a horrible parental choice, by the way.
Okay.
More so my husband than me. But Dewey was at a Kid Rock concert and somebody fell over and he's like, "Is there a doctor here?" "Of course there's not."
That's pretty funny. It's funny, like Family Guy's one of those things. I never really liked it all that much, but I can watch it pretty much any time and think it's funny. Yeah. But my opinion is still like, I don't love it.
Oh, stop.
I don't love it. I thought of you the other day because you mentioned my Buffy comic, and I got a really nice, like, original art print. I'll have to show you. It's Buffy related. But so let's talk about beers. I've got my bottle opener here. Why don't you kick it off, my friend, and tell us what you got for us this week?
I have the coveted Saison de Boeuf.
Okay, this is coveted, huh?
It is. This was it's taken me this long to get my hands on this, by the way. It came out, I don't know. I'd have to look up when it came out. It's at least a year old. But it is a combination of Dogfish Head, Stone, and Victory. So those three amazing brewers got together, came up with the recipe, and then they each brewed their own version of this beer. So it is a Saison. It's a farmhouse ale, and it is brewed with parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Oh, like the song.
Yes.
That's a song, right?
It is a song.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. And it was great, Dan. I got they only sell it in like 4-packs, and it was a blank 4-pack. You know what I mean? Like just the white, no like even label on the 4-pack.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Random.
So it's like the test pressing for vinyl. It's like not even labeled yet or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Very, very light. And so, do you really get all the herbs?
I get the rosemary. I mean, that's.
I was gonna say, like, rosemary is such an overpowering.
A little bit, but. Yeah, I do get the herb in the back. It's delightful. You need to find it. This is my last bottle. I saved it for today.
So it's really good. You really like it.
It's fantastic. I looked it up on our beer rating site. They only gave it an 85. I think that's complete. I'm calling bullshit because it's fantastic. It's also great with food. I've been drinking it with food this weekend. I cooked a bunch this weekend, and I was breaking out with this. Anyway, phenomenal. 3 of my favorite brewers. We know how I feel about Stone and Dogfish Head.
Because I was gonna say, like, there's what is that band called? It's kind of like, I was gonna say, it could suffer from like supergroup syndrome.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like in amazing bands, and they all get together, and then it's just kind of like, all right. Like there's a black metal band that's like that.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, but no, this is actually really, really good, and I'd like to see more of this. I love that idea. I love that idea of like brewers getting together, coming up with a recipe jointly, and then brewing on their own labels the same style, the same recipe. Anyway,
yeah, it's like the Avengers. It's all your favorite superheroes, but they're together in one comic book. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, and then throw Joss Whedon in, and then it'll be freaking brilliant.
Yeah, he is making all that money. Making that sweet Avengers money.
Anyway, what do you have today? What do you have to share?
I have this beer company that I like and that I don't get to get very often because they only, for whatever reason, they only carry it around here at Whole Foods.
Okay.
I have to drive like 30 minutes to get to, so I don't do that too often. But this is Wheeze Ale from the Maine Beer Company.
Yes, we love them.
Yeah, so Wheeze, I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
But I guess it's a black ale.
Ooh.
So you can see it.
I like the perspective there. Good one. Okay.
You like that? Yeah, very cool. So it's very dark.
Yep.
It smells hoppy, actually. It smells pretty hoppy. And a layer. Okay. Now let's see. I'm trying to get their description. So it's another 1 IPA, and Wheeze use the same hops but different malts. The result, Wheeze is very dark, but the hops shine in front. So let's see. Wow, that's really good.
Like it?
I really like that. It's got that sort of feeling of like when you're heading into Stoutland, where you have that sort of, that very yeasty kind of thing going on. But it's very hop forward, which is really nice. So it's lighter, obviously, than a stout. So it's a beautiful like dark color. It's really good.
I wonder, what's the alcohol in that, Dan? I bet it's not that high.
7.2.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah. So I mean it's really quite good. It got an 88 on Beer Advocate.
Very good.
Me, the official winner this week. But this is definitely worth checking out. They have yet to. I really like them.
I do too.
I really like their beer. I love how their packaging is so weird.
Yeah.
I'm just into it. I'm into
lots of white space. I know. I love them.
They're near enough that I could go. Yeah. Cheers.
Good beer. Hey, you know what? Let's cheers. Let's do you want to do a pumpkin taste-off next week if we remember, since it's the week?
Sure. So we're doing pumpkin beers. I have some pumpkin beers on hand.
I'll make myself a note. Cheers, Dan.
Cheers. Again. Yay. I got mine in my little tumbler. It's my record label tumbler. It says Enemies List on it.
Oh, let me see. Wait.
Can you see that?
Oh. You're so cool, Dan.
Right?
Yep. Very good.
So let's talk about this week's article. So maybe I'll do an intro and I'll toss to you because this was yours this week.
Yep, sure.
So by the way, just for the people watching at home, if you have any questions during the course of our broadcast, very official, then you can just pop them right into the comments in Google+, and we will see them in the Q&A section of the Hangout, and we'll be able to answer your questions on the air. And in fact, Deborah Norton left a thing. She said, "Hi, Patti and Dan. Are you guys going to do some fun SEO talk?" And I think we're being fun so far. So let's get right into it so Deborah can get that SEO content that she's looking for. Because this week we are talking about advanced SEO.
Yeah.
And I will bring up, Patti, the article here on the screen. This was an article put out by SEO Moz. There's about 7 advanced SEO concepts. And this kind of gets a little bit to some of the themes that we return to every week, I feel like, which is that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what SEO is and what actually matters and how much does it matter. So rather than kind of examining it by, what are the myths that people believe and how do we debunk them, this is instead talking about some of the more subtle and advanced concepts that are out there in terms of how does Google understand what content should rank where. And I think people in general, if you're talking about like a lay, quote-unquote lay audience, people don't really understand how sophisticated the ranking process is for Google and how complicated it is. Because if you think about it, Google's by far the market leader. If it was easy to do, they'd have a lot more competition, one would think.
That's right.
So, it's interesting to get into some of the deep stuff, and I didn't know about, I mean, I had a rough idea about most of these things, but I didn't know a lot of the technical language and sort of what goes behind it, so it was really, really interesting. Again, I'll put that up on the screen for folks. But as always, if you guys want to get the link to this week's article, you can get it straight from the Google Plus Hangouts page, or you can go tomorrow when the post comes up. You can go to twofriendlynerds.com/hangout. That's twofriendlynerds.com/hangout to see this and all of our past episodes. So, Patti, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of go down the list, or did you want to kind of address sort of more topic as a whole, kind of take it broadly?
Well, there's certainly a theme here that I think may take, it's just worth sort of pointing out. And they mention this, Cyrus is amazing, by the way. He's huge, right? Do you follow him and read his stuff?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
His dome is very noticeable. So I'm always like, I know it's that guy because of the dome.
Yeah, he has like his own brand. But anyway, I think the big idea here, Dan, before we start seriously nerding out, is that this article explains how Google is building this knowledge base, right? And that and how they're using that knowledge base, right? They've always been using it and collecting, how people are searching, things like natural language search, and now this is sort of extrapolating based on signals from Google, because again, we don't really know exactly what's in the algorithm or how to use it or manipulate it, obviously, but there's some really powerful signals, and the trend seems to be on contextual insights and how natural language is working together. So we've always been we've been talking for the last year about how content is king and creating really good relevant content and answering important questions that people are searching within Google for is how to get found, right? And this kind of just like takes this to a granular level. There's a handful of tips in here that fall under the idea of contextual insights and how natural language works together, and also how Google's algorithms then are drawing these conclusions and serving you up as answers to questions, right? So we can go down a little bit. I mean, the first two points he's making, one is keyword usage, and then the other one is a little bit more technical. That's that term frequency and inverse document frequency.
So why don't we talk a little bit about keyword, and both of these are related, right? Let's start with keyword usage and then move on to the term frequency thing, because I think for most people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and if anyone's ever done any SEO before, you know that the number one thing that clients think they should be doing or think you are doing is putting keywords into their website, right? Like that's the popular conception of what SEO is, right? Almost all of my clients will come to me after we've been working for a while and say, I had a friend look at the website and he says there are no keywords on the website, or and it's like, I don't know what that means, but they clearly have some kind of conception of what it means. So why don't you talk a little bit about the way it used to be, and kind of what keyword usage actually, or what it's actually about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth saying that this article goes through 7 ideas, and then there's this practical tip at the bottom, which I think is really the most important piece here. So number 1 on both of the lists is about keywords, and the point that he's making here is that it's less relevant. The individual keyword is less relevant, but then the tip at the bottom, he's saying, is that you need to know what terms you're targeting, you need to know what your kind of competition is, and you need to know the popularity of key phrases, right? So that you can either work within a niche, a niche to position whatever you're writing about. But it really isn't as easy to do on-site SEO with just a couple keywords, right? And then,
well, I think people think that that's all that matters.
Right.
And so it's like if I just use a bunch of keywords, I'll come up.
Right.
So what is the, if that's not the case, then what is the case in terms of keyword usage? Are we saying, is he saying that keyword usage doesn't matter and that I don't even have to worry about it? Or, I mean, what's the...
Well, I mean, the bottom line here is, he says right here, most on-page, hold on. I'm looking at the article. I got to the end of the keyword piece, and he's like, yeah, it's not that important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it's...
Yeah, it's basic. Right.
The primarily, like, the thing I think to get across is that it's one factor out of many, many, and that, it's a lot more subtle than people anticipate, right? So let's talk about that, because that starts to get into term frequency and related language and more of this kind of natural language piece.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so then he gets into, you're talking about number 2 now. So we talk about frequency, because I think that a couple of these go together. So 1, 2, and 3, this all falls under, this contextualized signals that Google is looking for and using. So number 2 is talking about, term frequency. So and they're talking about kind of comparative. So they're comparing your... And again, they're doing this like really fast, right? So this is at the algorithm level. So they're comparing the natural language within your site and your page to other sites that also have similar keywords and comparative natural language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a they're looking as to kind of correlate these, and then how do we stack them? How do we deliver them? What order do we deliver them in? Since everybody wants first position. So this is this component of at the page level, are we using those sort of similar language, which is what number 3 is about, synonyms and close variants. Another way to show within Google is to not just use the same word over and over again, because Google's not doing that, and they say there in the first paragraph that 70% of searches Google's using synonyms. So you're putting in one word, but it understands at a natural language level that there's these other variants, and that if I serve up these similar ideas, even though you didn't use that exact word, it's going to be relevant to you.
Yeah, I think the thing that was interesting to me is this idea of term frequency, right? And these things are all very closely related, but I thought it was sort of an interesting way to think about the frequency issue, which is probably, to me, it seemed like the most technical and kind of obscure of all these things, is the idea that, so when Google looks at your website, looks at the frequency of keywords on your website, it doesn't just think about your website, it thinks about all the similar related websites. So a website about baseball, and you're looking at a page that's an article about a particular player. Mm-hmm. Now, people think that in terms of keyword usage, the way you do SEO is that you put that keyword in there a lot of times. So you say, like, look, this keyword is on this page a lot of times, Google, that's what I want to rank for. Right. But if you think about it, you use all sorts of words on every page more than you use any of your keywords. Like, for example, the. Yeah. Right? You use the all the time. So it's like Google's not looking at your page and thinking, well, he's ranking for the word the, right? So what it does is look at a set of pages, your page, and then a bunch of other pages it thinks are related, and say, like, okay, on average, how often does the term the appear on these kind of pages? And it's going to appear a lot on everybody's page. So it says, okay, because the term frequency is high across all of these different pages, it's probably not that important. Whereas on your page, if you use one term that no one's ever used before, right, like flargle, bargle, or whatever, Google can look at all these other pages and say, like, oh, that's weird. Flargle, bargle only appears on this guy's page. It doesn't appear on all the other similar pages. Therefore, flargle, bargle is probably more important in the scheme of things to how I should rank this page, right? So it's like the frequency of terms on your page versus the density of those terms on everybody else's page, which... to me was really cool, because it's sort of, the whole keyword density thing makes sense as long as you don't think about it. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, what about all the other words that I use? Like, how does it filter it out? So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
and obviously, you know, it gets into the whole synonyms thing as well, because then you think like, well, okay, you know, let's say, yeah, dog photos and also dog photographs. So I don't have to try to rank all these pages for, you know, one for photographs and one for photos and one for pics, and, you know, kind of Google kind of understands those things. So
right,
that was pretty interesting.
Right. So the important idea is that, right, the TF IDF is how Google compares you with other options to show for the same and similar subset of natural language, right? And then the other is, you know, Google being, you know, smart and connecting your searches with what you mean. You know, it's this whole, you know, semantic search and natural language, and you know, it's thinking for you.
Right.
You know, 70% of searches is, and then this comes to a Hummingbird, right? So Hummingbird is like determining what you mean, not what you say.
Mm.
You know, I'm going to give you what you need, not what you're asking for, because if I give you what you're asking for,
you're asking
the wrong question.
Right. You say you're looking for marriage counseling, but I know you're looking for a divorce lawyer, so here you go.
Closest bar, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Number 4 is what? Page segmentation. So, you know, this is kind of a no-brainer. You want to put the most important ideas in the most important parts of the page, right? The body text.
Right. So Google understands that there's a part of your page that's primarily the content part, and it's kind of paying less attention to the header and the footer and the sidebars and stuff like that.
Exactly. And the footer thing has been really interesting. People have been trying, you know, there was a time, I don't know, a couple of years ago, people were stuffing a lot of content in the footer. Kind of silly. Google kind of gets what the footer content is versus the rest. I thought 5 was fascinating. And we should talk, too, about how to use some of these concepts as well. So number 5 is this idea of semantic distance. And I thought that this was just, I don't know, Dan, how did you read this? It's if you've got these similar synonyms and close variants that Google has derived, again, from its you know, this idea of sort of like entities, and, you know, we can talk a little bit about that too, but, you know, it's this knowledge base that Google's been creating, right? It's saving all of these natural language connections. Now it's applying it to kind of like where it lives on the page in relation to each other. So if you've got this list, Google is like, okay, about this topic, I would sort of expect to see these similar semantic related concepts within that. Okay, then I'm going to rank you this way, right? So it's like how it lives within the paragraph, how it lives within the metadata or the titles and headers, and then how you can sort of carve things out within list, right? So we know that you know, it's deriving meaning from how you're putting it on the page, which I think is cool.
Right. So like in an overall sense, Google looks at terms that are closer together in the paragraph and says, okay, these terms are more closely related than terms that are far away. Mm-hmm. But then in terms of titles and headers, and as well as lists, yeah, it's a little more subtle in that it says like, okay, so anything in the header is equally close to everything in the subsection of that header, right? So if I say like, you know, chapter 2 and everything below it, it continues to be equally distant from the header chapter 2, and that functions the same way as a list where all the terms in the list are equidistant to each other. Mm-hmm. So, because I think people might come away from this being like, oh, I got to put all my keywords like close together. Right. Isn't necessarily the point. And I think a lot of these things too, you know, it's funny because I think we're so used to in SEO this idea that you understand something about how Google works, and then your job is to manipulate that. Yeah. And I think a lot of these things are not necessarily like, here's the latest tip, kids, like put all your words next to each other, so no spaces, and that'll do it. You know, it's like it's not necessarily something that you're supposed to turn around and then change a whole lot about what you do. A lot of these things are more kind of understanding the process by which some of this kind of vaunted Google knowledge is actually sort of arrived at, right? And understanding that so that you can make sure that your strategies align with that, rather than being like, you know, like, hey everybody, it's wonderful to see you today on blarga flarga blarga flarga blarga flarga, you know, like, or whatever, and trying to cram things in there.
Right. And I've been using this weird term with some of my clients lately, and I'm not sure why it keeps coming up, but I discuss how you write for the internet, how you write for the web, how you write for your website, either blogging or just content in general. And I keep coming back to this kind of disgusting term. I'm just saying, Google wants things kind of pre-chewed, right? They want it pre-chewed, pre-thought through, bullets, not, stop giving me that face. Like,
gross, Patty.
No. So, but you want to sort of pre-think this stuff. You want bulleted list. You want bold terms. You don't want paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. We don't have patience for that. We're not spending the kind of time it takes to read a novel online. We're searching for answers, and we want to receive those answers. And
Right. Well, it's interesting though, because long, deep content is correlated with a lot of shares and stuff like that, right? So there's some sort of balance between scannability, which is what I was thinking about. Like, there's two types of people. There's the guy that's like, it's just sitting down to read War and Peace, and he's going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like your ideal person, right? And then you've got scanners. And I mean, I think we all have kind of been trained to scan rather than read. Because, especially like, and I don't know about you, like how you go about consuming your content for this show. I mean, I've got newsreader. I kind of go through the newsreader very quickly, maybe like once or twice a week. I will probably scan like 300 blog posts, something like that.
Yeah.
The ones I think are worth reading or worth digging into, I'll save to Pocket or some sort of reader.
Right.
And on the weekends, I'll tend to like dig into a couple articles and really try to get them read thoroughly, right?
Right.
But so it's interesting because it's like not one or the other, but you do need headers and lists and stuff because people want to scan and see where the information is in order to figure out if they're going to go back and actually read it from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. It's a lot of scanning. It's a lot of and I'm using all my devices to do this too. So I prefer to be reading on my iPad on my couch if I'm sitting there, kind of actually consuming an article. But and I'm sending it and sharing it. But anyway, okay, we have a couple more minutes and we have a couple really great points to make.
I've got more than a couple great points to make. I don't know about you. I've got some real zingers coming up.
Oh, shit. Okay, so entities is a really, I've been hearing about entities. I went to Inbound this back in August, and it's all about Google using this idea of entities. It's no longer a brand, it's an entity. It's no longer, a person, it's an entity. One of the examples.
You are no longer a person. You are an entity.
It's right, but it's about again, it's away from those exact keyword translated searches, and it's to you're looking for this idea, this concept, this entity. So there's ways to understand that and write for that, and take advantage of known relationships as it is to other entities. But honestly, I think the real meat of this article is the way that these practical tips have been laid out at the bottom here.
Okay.
Did you? I think this is where anyone who's listening to this, this is where these are the key takeaways.
Right.
So the first part, we talked earlier about the keywords. Knowing what you're targeting, getting an idea of what the competition is for that, and kind of the popularity. Number two, about kind of themes and such. But number three, I thought was really important. So this is answer as many questions as possible. I think that's great advice. Again, it's advice I've given over and over and over again. Anyone who's looking to blog, I've said this before. Just get the top 10 questions that everybody asks you over and over again whenever they first engage with you and your business and your services. What are those questions? Turn them into titles and write about it. Number four is just the natural language and using variants. Thinking through similar themes. Was number five. Most important content. Oh yeah, put the most important content in the most important sections of the page and kind of structure your content. Which is number six, which is in sort of things, that pre-chewed idea. So use bullets, make it scannable, put these similar themes to kind of together, right?
Mm-hmm.
and this is how you should you know, kind of make your, you know, craft your page, craft your paragraphs, cite your sources, it says here too, which I think is important as well. But anyway, I liked this very much. I'm going to actually use some of these ideas, you know, for sure. Learn something here.
It's funny because to what extent will we get to where it's like going to be, SEO is going to be this Zen-like thing.
Yeah.
It's like the more you try, the worse it is. You have to untry to write normal. Like, you know, people are going to be like, oh my God, am I writing normal enough? How do I write normal? You know what I mean? It's going to be this weird thing. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a really helpful article. I was really interested by all some of the more technical stuff. It's really interesting. So if anyone out there is interested in learning a little bit more about the advanced side of how Google works, or you're just looking for some like real-world tips, like Patti said, there's a really great sort of breakdown at the bottom of how you can actually use that in terms of your site. So definitely check that out. You can get the link. If you're watching this on Thursday when the blog post goes up, you'll be able to get the link at twofriendlynerds.com/hangout, twofriendlynerds.com/hangout, or if you're watching on Google+, just check the show notes over on the upper right there, and you'll get the link right there as well. It is 12:30 and I have to run, so Patti, thank you as always. Wonderful. You did a super good job today. Very interesting. Yeah, get your le bouffe. Enjoy your French beer. That's very nice. And I finished mine actually, but I got a little bit left in there that I'll sip. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. You can check us out next week, Wednesday, noon Eastern Standard Time, or just go to YouTube and type in SEO and IPA. You'll find all our past episodes, links, and cool stuff, and we can't wait to see you guys next week. Patti, thank you as always, my friend. As always, optimize responsibly, please.
Optimize responsibly. Cheers.
That was really good. I'm going to do more of that tonight. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.